Savannah Mitchell, 28, stood frozen in her childhood home's driveway, watching her parents wrap their arms around her younger sister Amber as she squealed with delight over her brand new BMW, complete with an enormous red bow. Meanwhile, Savannah clutched the birthday card her parents had given her moments before, containing exactly 2 wrinkled $1 bills and a hastily scrawled happy birthday. It was at that precise moment she realized 28 years of family devotion had been a devastating lie. Before I dive deeper into how my life completely imploded that day, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you've ever experienced family favoritism or betrayal, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of real talk storytelling. The family drama I'm about to share might just make your jaw drop, so stick around to see how karma finally caught up with them all. Growing up as the eldest daughter in the Mitchell family, Savannah had always sensed a subtle difference in how her parents treated her compared to her sister Amber. At first, she dismissed these feelings as typical sibling jealousy. Their suburban Boston home seemed picture-perfect from the outside. Her father Thomas, a successful investment banker, and mother Eleanor, a well-known interior designer, had provided a life of apparent privilege, but the differences in treatment were impossible to ignore over time. When Savannah turned 16, she received a used Honda with 1,200,000 miles on it, which she was expected to pay her parents back for through part-time jobs. When Amber turned 16 2 years later, she was gifted a brand new Audi, no strings attached. When Savannah graduated high school with a 4 gigapascals and acceptance to Cornell, her parents gave her a $100 gift card to Target. When Amber graduated with a 3.2 and acceptance to a state school, they threw her a lavish party and presented her with a $5,000 check. They're just trying to motivate you because they know you're the responsible one, Savannah's grandmother had whispered to her, once the only person who seemed to notice the disparity. But Grandma Mitchell passed away when Savannah was in college, taking with her the only ally Savannah had in the family. Throughout college, Savannah worked 2 jobs while maintaining her scholarship, receiving minimal financial support from her parents, despite their obvious wealth. Meanwhile, Amber's apartment, car, and living expenses were fully covered. When Savannah graduated with honors in economics, her parents attended but left immediately after the ceremony, claiming they had a reservation at an exclusive restaurant. They later posted photos of themselves celebrating with Amber, who had just passed her real estate exam, with champagne and gifts at the very restaurant they'd rushed off to. Despite the growing evidence of favoritism, Savannah continued to make excuses for her parents. Perhaps they were harder on her because they believed in her more. Perhaps Amber simply needed more support. Perhaps they just showed love differently to each daughter. Savannah threw herself into her career in financial analysis, establishing herself as a rising talent in Boston's competitive market. She maintained a cordial relationship with her family, attending holidays and birthdays, with a smile plastered on her face, enduring the subtle barbs and constant comparisons. "Why can't you find a nice man like Amber's boyfriend?" her mother would ask, ignoring the fact that Savannah's last relationship had ended because her boyfriend cheated with Amber, a fact everyone pretended never happened. "When are you going to buy a house like your sister?" her father would inquire, despite knowing Savannah had been saving diligently while paying off student loans that they had refused to help with. Each interaction left Savannah feeling increasingly hollow, her self-worth eroding bit by bit. Still, she persisted, achieving promotions and accolades in her career that went unacknowledged by her family. She helped her parents navigate a tax issue that saved them thousands. They sent her a generic thank you text. She helped Amber prepare for an important client presentation. Her parents took everyone out to dinner to celebrate Amber's natural business acumen. Through therapy, Savannah had begun to recognize the toxic dynamics at play, but something inside her still craved her parents' approval. That last shred of hope kept her tethered to the family that consistently devalued her worth. Until her 28th birthday, the day that would finally shatter all illusions and force her to confront the painful reality of her family's true feelings toward her. The contrast between her 2 crumpled dollar bills and Amber's gleaming luxury car wasn't just another example of the disparity, it was a clear message. To her parents, Savannah would always be an afterthought regardless of her accomplishments or loyalty. As she stood there on that fateful day, something inside her finally broke, setting in motion a chain of events that would change everything. The birthday celebration, if it could even be called that, continued with an awkward dinner where Savannah's parents fawned over Amber's new promotion at the real estate agency where she worked. Savannah sat quietly, the $2 bills burning a hole in her pocket as her father raised a toast to our successful daughters. Plural, as if they recognized Savannah's accomplishments at all. "And Savannah, what's new with you?" her mother asked, perfunctorily, not even looking up from cutting her steak. Savannah opened her mouth to mention her recent promotion to senior financial analyst, a position that usually took people 10 years to achieve, not 5, but Amber interrupted. "Dad, can I take the BMW to Martha's Vineyard this weekend? Jason wants to see the new beach house before you list it." The beach house. Another revelation. Her parents had purchased a vacation home and hadn't even mentioned it to Savannah. She'd heard about it through a mutual friend who'd seen Amber's social media posts. "Of course, sweetheart," her father replied, "just be careful with the new upholstery." Savannah excused herself to use the restroom, where she splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection. She barely recognized the woman looking back at her, someone who had diminished herself to fit into a family that clearly didn't value her. Her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend, Morgan. "How's the birthday dinner going?" Did they remember this year? Morgan had witnessed years of this treatment, constantly urging Savannah to establish boundaries. Savannah had always resisted, clinging to the hope that things would change, but staring at her reflection, something shifted inside her. She texted back, "They gave me $2. Amber got a BMW with a red bow." Morgan's response was immediate, "I'm coming to get you. This is done." When Savannah returned to the table, her mother was showing off pictures of Amber's boyfriend's recent proposal, another event Savannah hadn't been told about. "When's the wedding?" Savannah asked, her voice strangely calm. "Next June," her mother replied. "We've already put a deposit on the plaza. It's going to be absolutely magnificent." The plaza in New York. Savannah clarified, her stomach dropping. "That's expensive." Her father waved his hand dismissively. "Nothing's too good for our little girl's special day." Savannah nodded slowly. "I see. And will I be invited to this wedding, or is that still being decided?" An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Amber looked down at her plate. "Don't be ridiculous, Savannah," her mother finally said. "Of course you're invited, you'll be a bridesmaid. We thought Amber already discussed this with you." "No," Savannah replied. "This is the first I'm hearing about any of it." "Well," her father interjected, "you're always so busy with work. Hard to catch you sometimes." Savannah felt a cold clarity wash over her. "I've had the same phone number for 10 years. I answer every call and text from this family. I've never been hard to catch." Her parents exchanged glances, the kind of silent communication that excluded Savannah once again. "Let's not make a scene on your birthday," her mother said quietly. "Amber's engagement is still fresh news." Savannah nodded, a plan forming in her mind. "You're right. Let's enjoy the evening." The rest of dinner passed in a blur. Savannah said very little, observing her family as if from a distance. These people were strangers to her, bound by blood, but nothing else. When they declined dessert, despite it being her birthday dinner, Savannah didn't object. Back at her apartment that night, Morgan arrived with ice cream and wine, ready to console her friend. Instead, she found Savannah methodically packing suitcases. "What are you doing?" Morgan asked. I've been offered a position in our Chicago office 3 times, Savannah explained, folding sweaters with precision. I've turned it down each time because I didn't want to leave my family. I'm calling my boss at 8 a.m. to accept the transfer. Morgan sat on the bed. Just like that, you're moving to Chicago. Just like that, Savannah confirmed. I've spent my entire life trying to earn love that was never going to be given freely. I'm done. What about your lease, your furniture, your life here? Savannah had already thought it through. I'll break the lease, I have enough saved. The furniture can be sold or donated. My life here, she paused. The important parts like you can be maintained from Chicago. The rest of it was an illusion anyway. As midnight approached, Savannah methodically erased her social media presence, changing privacy settings and removing family members. At 1:30 a.m., she drafted a concise email to her parents and sister, explaining that she would no longer be available to them in any capacity. She didn't blame them or rage against them, she simply stated that she was removing herself from a dynamic that had caused her pain for too long. At exactly 2:00 a.m., she hit send, then blocked their numbers on her phone. It felt both terrifying and liberating, like stepping off a cliff only to discover she could fly. Morgan watched in stunned silence as Savannah then proceeded to call her boss's voicemail and accept the Chicago position effective immediately. Are you sure about this? Morgan asked as the night deepened. Savannah looked at her oldest friend. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. It's time I valued myself since they never will. By dawn, Savannah had a one-way ticket to Chicago for the following day, and a temporary corporate apartment arranged. The speed of her decision might have seemed impulsive to an outsider, but for Savannah, it was the culmination of 28 years of accumulated pain and clarity. As the morning light filtered through her curtains, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years: peace. Savannah's phone exploded with notifications by 8 a.m. Her parents and sister had discovered her email and their blocked status. They'd resorted to calling from unknown numbers, leaving voicemails ranging from confused to angry. Her father threatened to call the police for a wellness check. Her mother accused her of being mentally unstable. Amber oscillated between guilt-tripping and self-victimization. Savannah listened to each message once, then deleted them all. She had expected this reaction, the shock of losing control over her rather than genuine concern for her well-being. It only reinforced her decision. By noon, her father had indeed sent police to her apartment for a wellness check. Savannah calmly explained to the officers that she was an adult making a career change and had decided to distance herself from her family. The officers, seeing nothing concerning about her demeanor or living conditions, left after confirming she wasn't in any danger. Her parents then tried a different approach, showing up at her workplace. Savannah had anticipated this and had already spoken with security. They were politely but firmly turned away, unable to create the public scene they'd likely hoped would force her compliance. You don't seem upset, Morgan observed that evening, as she helped Savannah pack the last of her essential belongings. I'd be a wreck. Savannah considered this. I think I did all my grieving over the years in small doses every time they showed me where I stood with them. Today just feels inevitable. The next morning, as Savannah prepared to leave for the airport, an expensive floral arrangement arrived at her door, her mother's typical method of smoothing over conflicts without actual apologies. The card read simply, "Don't be childish, call us." Mom and Dad. Savannah gave the flowers to her elderly neighbor, then wheeled her suitcases to Morgan's waiting car. Chicago welcomed Savannah with a brisk wind and a clean slate. Her corporate apartment overlooked the Chicago River, a stark contrast to her modest Boston accommodation. Her new position came with a substantial raise and increased responsibilities that would challenge her professionally. For the first time in her life, there was no one looking over her shoulder, comparing her achievements to someone else's, or diminishing her success. Within weeks, Savannah established a routine that prioritized her well-being. She joined a local gym, found a therapist specializing in family trauma, and began exploring her new city with genuine curiosity. She discovered small pleasures she'd denied herself in Boston. An art class on Saturdays, Sunday brunches with new acquaintances from work, spontaneous weekend trips to nearby Michigan. Morgan visited after Savannah's first month, marveling at the transformation in her friend. "You look lighter," she observed. "Like you've put down a weight you've been carrying forever." Savannah had to agree. The constant anxiety that had been her companion for as long as she could remember, the fear of disappointing her parents, of not measuring up, of being further ostracized from her family, had begun to dissipate. In its place grew something tentative but precious: self-acceptance. 3 months into her Chicago life, Savannah received a formal-looking envelope forwarded from her old address. Inside was an invitation to Amber's wedding addressed simply to Savannah Mitchell and guest. No personal note, no acknowledgement of their estrangement. Just an expectation that she would appear and play her assigned role in the family performance. Savannah placed the invitation on her kitchen counter and stared at it for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised even herself: she laughed. The gesture was so perfectly emblematic of her family's approach to relationships: appearance over substance, obligation over genuine connection. She checked the regretfully declines box, wrote a brief congratulatory note wishing Amber happiness, and enclosed a modest but thoughtful gift certificate. She didn't include a return address. That evening, sitting on her balcony, watching the sunset paint the Chicago skyline in shades of gold and pink, Savannah realized something profound. She was no longer waiting for her family to change, to suddenly recognize her worth, to apologize for years of inequity. She was moving forward, building a life based on her own values rather than reactive to theirs. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments of doubt, flashes of anger, echoes of old pain. But with each passing day, those moments grew fewer and farther between. In their place grew something she'd never fully experienced before: freedom to become the person she was meant to be, unburdened by the weight of seeking approval that would never come. 6 months into her new life in Chicago, Savannah had transformed both professionally and personally. Her financial analysis team had exceeded quarterly projections under her leadership, earning recognition from the company's executive board. She'd made genuine friendships that didn't revolve around family drama, joined a community garden project, and even started cautiously dating again. The persistent ache of family rejection had faded to a dull throb that she could mostly ignore. Then came the email that disrupted her carefully constructed peace. It was from her maternal grandmother's former attorney, a name Savannah vaguely remembered from childhood. The subject line read simply, "Urgent matter regarding Eleanor Mitchell Trust." "Miss Mitchell," the email began, "I've been attempting to reach you through your family without success. It has come to my attention that certain provisions of your grandmother Eleanor Mitchell's trust may not have been properly executed. If you could contact my office at your earliest convenience, I believe we have matters of significant importance to discuss." Savannah stared at her screen, confused. Her grandmother had died nearly 7 years ago. Why would her attorney be reaching out now, and through her family? That meant her parents had known about this, and deliberately kept it from her. "I know you're probably wondering what bombshell was about to drop in my life. Trust me, I wasn't prepared for it either. Have you ever discovered something that made you question everything about your past? If you're enjoying this journey with me so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more stories that prove truth is often stranger than fiction. And if you're wondering what could possibly be in that trust that my family kept hidden from me, keep watching. The revelation changed everything and might just leave you speechless." After careful consideration, Savannah arranged a video conference with the attorney Gregory Harmon for the following day. She slept poorly that night, her mind racing with possibilities. "Mr. Harmon was precisely as she remembered from her childhood, silver-haired bow-tied with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. After brief pleasantries, he got straight to the point. Miss Mitchell, I've recently been reviewing some old cases during our firm's digitization process when I came across your grandmother's trust. Something struck me as unusual, specifically regarding distributions that should have been made to you. Savannah leaned forward. Distributions? I wasn't aware I was included in my grandmother's trust. My parents told me she left everything to them. Mr. Harmon's expression turned grave. That's precisely why I'm contacting you. According to the trust documents, upon your 21st birthday, you should have received a distribution of $50,000 for education expenses. At 25, you were entitled to another $100,000. And most significantly, at 28, you were to receive the bulk of your grandmother's estate, approximately $1.2 million, and her Cape Cod property. Savannah felt as though the floor had dropped from beneath her. That's impossible. I received nothing, not a penny. I feared as much, the attorney said grimly. Your grandmother was quite explicit about her wishes. She believed strongly in education and financial independence for women, having built her own successful business in an era when that was unusual. She specifically structured her trust to provide you, her first grandchild, with the means to establish yourself without having to rely on your parents. But how could this happen? Savannah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. How could they just take my inheritance? Mr. Harmon sighed. The trust was administered by your father with oversight supposedly provided by our firm. However, the partner who originally handled the case retired shortly after your grandmother's passing. It appears your father presented documents suggesting you had declined your inheritance in favor of a consolidated family trust. Those documents bear what appears to be your signature. My signature? Savannah echoed, stunned. I never signed anything like that, ever. I suspected as much, the attorney nodded. The signatures don't quite match your other legal documents. Miss Mitchell, I believe your father may have committed fraud. The revelation struck Savannah like a physical blow. Her parents hadn't just favored Amber emotionally, they had literally stolen from her, taking money explicitly left for her by the one family member who had truly loved her. The Cape Cod property, Savannah said, suddenly. Is that the same property my parents now use as a vacation home? The one they recently mentioned. Taking Amber to Mr. Harmon checked his files. Yes, the address matches. Your grandmother's home on Lighthouse Lane. Pieces began falling into place with sickening clarity. The beach house her parents had supposedly purchased recently was actually her inheritance. Her grandmother's home, where Savannah had spent happy childhood summers, had been stolen from her and presented as a gift to her sister. What happens now? Savannah asked, her voice steadier than she expected. That depends on what you wish to pursue, Mr. Harmon replied. This is a clear case of trust fraud. We can file a civil suit to recover your rightful inheritance with interest. Given the evidence, criminal charges could also be considered, though that path would be more complex and personally difficult, I imagine. Would my parents go to jail? Savannah asked, surprised by her own conflicted feelings about the possibility. It's possible, yes. Trust fraud of this magnitude is a felony. Savannah sat back, mind reeling. The $2 bills on her birthday suddenly took on new meaning, a mockery, a twisted inside joke at her expense. All those years struggling to pay for college, working multiple jobs, scraping by while her parents lived lavishly, it had been funded by money that legally belonged to her. I need time to think, she finally said. Of course, Mr. Harmon replied. But I should inform you that there's another component to consider. Your grandmother's trust included a provision that if any interference with the distribution occurred, the entirety of the trust would go to you alone, with nothing reserved for other family members. If we pursue this case and prove fraud, your sister's portion, which was much smaller but still substantial, would also legally revert to you." Savannah felt a cold wave of realization wash over her. This wasn't just about money. This revelation explained so much about her family's dynamic, why her parents had always favored Amber, why they'd kept Savannah close enough to maintain appearances but never truly supported her. They had been using her, manipulating her, all while stealing what was rightfully hers. That night, Savannah paced her Chicago apartment until dawn, weighing her options. The betrayal cut deeper than she could have imagined. It wasn't just emotional neglect, it was calculated financial theft. Her parents had literally stolen her future, her security, her grandmother's final expression of love. By morning, Savannah had made her decision. She would pursue justice, not out of vengeance, but because her grandmother's wishes deserved to be honored. She contacted Mr. Harmon and authorized him to proceed with legal action to recover her inheritance. "And Mr. Harmon," she added, before ending the call, "I want this handled with complete discretion for now. My family shouldn't know this is coming until they're legally served." "Understood, Miss Mitchell. We'll proceed accordingly." As Savannah ended the call, she felt a strange sense of calm. The final piece of the puzzle had clicked into place. Now she understood exactly why she had been treated as an afterthought all these years. And soon her family would understand exactly what their greed had cost them. 3 weeks after her conversation with Mr. Harmon, Savannah found herself in Boston, sitting in a sleek conference room at Harmon Wexler and Associates. The legal team had moved with impressive efficiency, building an airtight case against Thomas and Eleanor Mitchell. Today would be the first official proceeding, a settlement conference requested by her parents once they'd been served with legal documents. "They're desperate to keep this quiet," Mr. Harmon explained as they waited. "Your father's position at the investment firm is particularly vulnerable to this kind of scandal." Savannah nodded, smoothing her charcoal gray suit, a power outfit she'd purchased specifically for this confrontation. "What exactly are they offering?" "They want to settle for half the value of the trust," the attorney replied. "They're claiming they used some of the funds for your benefit over the years, private school, family vacations, that sort of thing." Savannah gave a humorless laugh. "I attended public school. The only vacations we took were to visit my father's clients, where he wrote the trips off as business expenses. And I worked since I was 15 to pay for my own clothes, car insurance, and eventually college, all of which strengthens our position," Mr. Harmon assured her. "But I should prepare you, this will likely get ugly. Your parents have hired Preston Dawes." Savannah recognized the name from business news. Dawes was a notorious attorney who specialized in helping wealthy clients escape consequences. His reputation for aggressive, even ruthless tactics preceded him. "I'm ready," she said simply. When her parents entered the conference room, Savannah was struck by how small they suddenly appeared to her. Her father's confident stride seemed more like strutting now. Her mother's perfect appearance looked brittle, a fragile facade. They were accompanied by a sharp-faced man she assumed was Preston Dawes, and surprisingly, Amber. No one spoke as they took their seats across the large table. Savannah maintained steady eye contact, refusing to be the first to look away. It was her mother who finally broke the silence. "This is completely unnecessary, Savannah. We could have discussed this as a family." "Like you discussed my inheritance with me," Savannah replied coolly. "Or like you discussed the beach house that legally belongs to me." Her father leaned forward, his expression a practiced mix of disappointment and concern. "Your grandmother's wishes were more complicated than you understand. We made decisions that benefited the entire family. By forging my signature and embezzling over $1 million that was legally mine." Savannah countered, her voice even. "Those decisions seem pretty straightforward to me." Preston Dawes interjected, his voice smooth as oil. "Miss Mitchell, your parents have offered a very generous settlement out of their desire to resolve this family matter amicably. Half the original trust value plus interest, that's nearly $800, 000. A substantial sum that acknowledges your concerns while recognizing the investments they've made in your upbringing. Savannah turned to him with a calm smile. Mr. Dawes, I understand you're doing your job, but please don't insult my intelligence. My parents stole $1.2 million plus of valuable property from me, used it to fund their lifestyle and favor my sister, all while watching me work multiple jobs to pay for college, something the trust was specifically designated to cover. There's nothing amicable about their behavior, and there's nothing generous about offering to return half of what they stole. Amber, who had remained silent, suddenly spoke up. You're just doing this to hurt the family. You always had to be the center of attention. Savannah regarded her sister sadly. Amber, when was I ever the center of attention in our family? When did my achievements ever receive even a fraction of the celebration? Yours. Did I received $2 for my birthday while you got a BMW? I think you've confused which of us was favored. That's not fair, her mother protested. We love both our daughters equally. Equal love doesn't steal from one child to benefit the other, Savannah replied. Equal love doesn't forge signatures on legal documents. Equal love doesn't watch one child struggle financially while using that child's inheritance to buy luxury cars for the other. Her father's facade finally cracked. You ungrateful. He caught himself glancing at the attorneys. Everything we did was for this family. You were always so independent, so capable. Amber needed more support. So you committed felony fraud? Savannah asked. Was buying her affection worth the potential prison sentence, Dad? The color drained from her father's face. Mr. Harmon took this opportunity to slide a document across the table. Our counteroffer, he stated professionally. Miss Mitchell will accept the full value of her inheritance as specified in the trust plus legal interest compounded over the 7 years since it should have been distributed, plus the Cape Cod property, plus damages for emotional distress and the fraud perpetrated against her. In exchange, she will not pursue criminal charges. Preston Dawes scanned the document, his expression souring. This is outrageous. The total would exceed $2.3 million plus the property. Actually, Mr. Harmon corrected due to the trust provision regarding interference with distributions. The total includes the portions originally designated for Amber as well, bringing the amount to approximately $2.8 million plus the property. Amber gasped. What? My trust fund too, Savannah, you can't do this. Savannah looked at her sister directly. I'm not doing this, Amber. Our parents did this when they chose to violate the terms of Grandma's trust. The consequence clause was her decision, not mine. Her mother began to cry, carefully controlled tears that didn't smudge her makeup. You would ruin this family over money. After everything we've done for you, this isn't about money, Savannah replied, her voice finally revealing emotion. This is about decades of being treated as less than. This is about the two of you stealing from me and lying to me. This is about you taking what my grandmother, the only person in this family who truly valued me, wanted me to have. Her father, regaining his composure, tried a different approach. Think of your sister's wedding. Think of our reputation in the community. Is revenge really worth all that? Savannah felt a flash of anger. Is that really your concern? Your reputation, not the fact that you committed fraud against your own daughter. She took a deep breath. This isn't revenge, this is justice. For me and for Grandma Eleanor. Preston Dawes leaned toward her parents, speaking in hushed tones. The conference room fell silent, save for her mother's occasional sniffling. After several minutes, Dawes straightened. My clients need time to consider their options, he announced formally. They have 48 hours, Mr. Harmon replied. After that, we proceed with both the civil case and criminal charges. As the meeting concluded, Amber lingered behind. Once their parents and the attorneys had left the room, she approached Savannah. Did you know? she asked, her voice small. All these years did you know they were favoring me because of the money? Savannah regarded her sister, seeing, for perhaps the first time, not a rival but another victim of their parents' manipulation. No, Amber. I thought it was just who they loved more. I never imagined it was this calculated. I didn't know about your inheritance, Amber said, tears welling in her eyes. I swear I didn't. I believe you, Savannah replied, surprised to find she truly did. They used both of us, just in different ways. Amber wiped her eyes. What happens now? Savannah gathered her documents. Now they have 48 hours to decide whether their pride is worth a criminal record. As she left the conference room, Savannah felt neither triumph nor satisfaction, only a profound sadness for what her family could have been, and a quiet determination to finally claim what was rightfully hers. 36 hours after the settlement conference, Mr. Harmon called with news her parents had accepted the terms. They would transfer the full amount demanded and sign over the Cape Cod property. In exchange, Savannah would not pursue criminal charges or take the matter public. They're liquidating investments and taking a line of credit against their primary residence, the attorney explained. The full amount should be transferred within 30 days. And the property? Savannah asked. The deed transfer for the Cape Cod house will be processed immediately. It's legally yours as of this morning. Savannah felt a complex swirl of emotions: relief, vindication, but also a deep sadness. Thank you, Mr. Harmon, for everything. There's one more thing, he added. Your sister called me directly. She's requesting a meeting with you alone. No attorneys, no parents. Savannah hesitated. Her relationship with Amber had always been complicated, competitive, and strained, but not entirely without affection. Did she say why? Only that it was important and personal. After consideration, Savannah agreed to meet Amber at a neutral location, a quiet cafe halfway between Boston and the Cape. She arrived early, claiming a corner table that offered privacy without isolation. Amber appeared precisely on time, looking noticeably different than she had at the legal meeting. Gone was the polished, confident facade, replaced by a woman who appeared to have slept poorly and dressed hastily. Thank you for meeting me, she said, sliding into the seat across from Savannah. Of course, Savannah replied, cautious but not cold. How are you holding up? Amber gave a humorless laugh. My wedding's been downsized from the plaza to Dad's country club. Mom's barely speaking to anyone. Dad's meeting with his firm's ethics board. And I've discovered my entire life was built on money stolen from my sister. She shook her head. So not great, honestly. Savannah said nothing, waiting for her sister to continue. I've been doing a lot of thinking, Amber said, fidgeting with a napkin. About our childhood, about how differently they treated us. I always thought. She paused, gathering herself. I always thought it was because I needed more help, because you were the smart one, the capable one. I never questioned why they gave me so much more. I just took it. You were a child, Amber, Savannah said gently. We both were. Children shouldn't have to question their parents' love or fairness. But I wasn't a child when I slept with your boyfriend in college, Amber blurted out, tears forming. Or when I accepted the car while knowing you were working 2 jobs. Or when I excluded you from wedding planning while Mom and Dad spent what I now know was your money on my dream wedding. Savannah felt old pain surface, but it was duller now, less sharp. Why did you do those things? Amber wiped her eyes. Because it was easier to believe you didn't need what I had. That you were fine being the responsible, independent one. That you didn't care about the things I got because you were somehow above it all. She looked directly at Savannah. And because they taught me that was normal. That family meant competition, not support. The honesty was unexpected and strangely healing. For the first time, Savannah felt truly seen by a member of her family. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Amber continued. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I see it now, all of it. And I'm sorry I participated in hurting you for so long. Savannah studied her sister's face, searching for the manipulation she'd grown accustomed to finding in family interactions. Instead, she saw only genuine remorse. "What will you do now?" Savannah asked. "With the wedding, with everything." Amber took a shaky breath. "I broke up with Jason last night. Turns out he was more interested in my supposed trust fund than in me. As for the wedding," she shrugged, "there won't be one. At least not anytime soon." "I'm sorry," Savannah said, surprised to find she meant it. "Don't be. It's better to know the truth even when it hurts." Amber hesitated, then reached into her bag. "I brought you something. It's not much compared to everything, but..." She placed a small worn velvet box on the table. Savannah recognized it immediately, her grandmother's jewelry box. "Mom gave this to me when I got engaged," Amber explained. "But Grandma Eleanor always said her pearls would go to you someday. I think she'd want you to have them now." Savannah carefully opened the box. Inside lay a strand of perfect pearls, the necklace her grandmother had worn to every important family occasion. Attached was a small note in her grandmother's handwriting. "For Savannah, my first granddaughter who shines with her own inner light." "She left this for me?" Savannah asked, voice catching. Amber nodded. "Mom kept it in her jewelry box all these years. I found it when I was looking for something to wear to the engagement party." The discovery of yet another withheld inheritance should have reignited Savannah's anger, but instead, she felt oddly peaceful. This tangible connection to her grandmother, the one person who had truly seen and valued her, meant more than any monetary sum. As they parted ways outside the cafe, Amber asked hesitantly, "Will we ever speak again after all this is settled?" Savannah considered the question carefully. "I don't know what our relationship looks like moving forward. But I'm open to finding out slowly on new terms." It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was a door left slightly ajar, a possibility neither had expected at the start of the day. Back in Chicago, Savannah placed her grandmother's pearls on her dresser where she would see them each morning, a reminder not of what had been taken from her, but of the love that had always been intended for her. The legal settlement proceeded as agreed. Within 30 days, Savannah received the full restitution of her inheritance, plus interest and damages. The Cape Cod property was transferred to her name, though she wasn't yet sure what she would do with it. As the dust settled, Savannah faced a decision she hadn't anticipated: what to do about Amber's portion of the inheritance. Legally, due to the interference clause, it was now Savannah's. But the connection they'd begun to rebuild at the cafe lingered in her mind. After much reflection, Savannah established a separate trust in Amber's name, containing half of what would have been her original inheritance from their grandmother. It wasn't given out of obligation or manipulation, but as a clean break from the toxic patterns of their parents, a chance for both sisters to begin again on equal footing. Her parents made one final attempt at contact, sending a formal letter through their attorney. It contained no apology, only a request to put this unfortunate misunderstanding behind us and reunite as a family. Savannah didn't respond. Some bridges once burned cannot and should not be rebuilt. Savannah stood on the deck of the Cape Cod house, her house now watching the waves crash against the shore as the sun set over the Atlantic. The property had been transformed over the past year, renovated to reflect her own taste rather than her parents' ostentatious style. Simple, elegant, peaceful, a true sanctuary. Her life in Chicago continued to flourish. Her team had received recognition for innovative financial analysis methods she'd developed, leading to a substantial promotion. She'd made genuine friends who valued her for who she was rather than what she could provide. She'd even begun a promising relationship with someone who understood her complicated family history and respected her boundaries around it. But the Cape House had become her retreat, a place to reconnect with the grandmother who had valued her enough to provide for her future. Savannah had found additional letters from her grandmother, hidden in a secret compartment of the old writing desk messages Eleanor had intended for Savannah to find when she inherited the property. Each letter reinforced what Savannah had always suspected, that her grandmother had recognized the dysfunctional family dynamics and had tried in her own way to provide Savannah an escape route. Amber had visited twice, their relationship evolving into something neither could have predicted, not the forced closeness of their childhood, nor the bitter estrangement of recent years, but something honest and cautiously supportive. They would never be best friends, but they had found common ground in healing from their shared past and creating healthier futures. Her parents remained cut off entirely. They had made several more attempts at contact, showing up at her office in Chicago, where they were turned away by security, sending lavish gifts which were returned unopened, and even trying to use extended family members as intermediaries. Savannah maintained her boundaries firmly but without malice. Some relationships were simply too toxic to salvage, too damaged to repair. The inheritance had provided Savannah with financial security, but the true wealth she'd gained was in self-worth. No longer did she measure her value through the distorted lens of her parents' approval. No longer did she diminish her achievements or apologize for her success. She had built a life that honored her grandmother's faith in her, and more importantly, her own inherent worth. As twilight deepened over the beach, Savannah fingered the pearl necklace around her throat, a tangible connection to the woman who had tried to ensure her future. "Thank you, Grandma," she whispered to the ocean breeze. "For everything." The $2 bills from that fateful birthday remained framed on her wall, not as a reminder of pain, but as a monument to the moment she had finally valued herself enough to walk away. They represented not what she had lost, but what she had gained: freedom, self-respect, and the courage to create a life on her own terms. Savannah had learned that family was not defined merely by blood, but by actions, respect, and genuine care. She had discovered that sometimes the greatest act of self-love is walking away from those who cannot or will not value you. And most importantly, she had found that the approval she had sought for so long from her parents had never been the true prize. The real treasure was learning to approve of herself. I want to thank all of you for joining me on this journey through one of the most painful and ultimately transformative chapters of my life. Has anyone else ever experienced that moment when you realized your worth wasn't dependent on family approval? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you or helped you feel less alone in your own family struggles, please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel for more authentic life stories, and share with someone who might need to hear that walking isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the first step toward truly finding yourself. Remember, family karma has a way of balancing the scales, but your value was never determined by how others treat you. Until next time, this is Savannah, wishing you the courage to know your worth and the strength to honor it.